Dark web user, have you ever felt like you were in serious danger? I've never personally felt I was in actual danger, so to speak, since I take proper precautions, but early on I did accidentally come across a site/forum while exploring that was filled with snuff photos of women people had assaulted and then knocked out or killed. Shut down my browser pretty quick after that, but felt uneasy for a long time after. I was a casual orderer of the dark web for a while and got pretty big into it and started buying slightly bulky packages of drugs. If you knew the markets for a while, then you would know one called Alpha Bay was the best of the best. The Amazon of drugs and fraud would be its best description. However, it went down mysteriously one day and everyone assumed the owners just scammed everyone for their Bitcoin. Partially true, but in the background it was actually seized the DEA. Everyone flocked to a new site called Hansa which had some sketchy design features, but it was the next best alternative. Turns out the Dutch police took over the site and with cooperation of multiple governments ran a drug distribution onion site with over $1 million of transactions for around a month. They were gathering information from unsuspecting users, including me, who bought with faulty security practices. Now this is where I started freaking out. Imagine trafficking drugs through the mail and the Attorney General at the time, Jeff Sessions, makes a speech live on television that he was going to crack down and explicitly explains how freaked everyone on Hansa was because they have been gathering data for over a month. And in a big dick energy move closes the site and puts up a banner in its place saying everyone who has purchased will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law during his live speech. I was shitting myself for a month as many arrests did occur, but luckily I guess I wasn't important enough and nothing happened to me. I own a fairly rare car that had a rare error code. I looked it up on Google and there was only one other person on the car makers forum that had the same error. And this guy took months and months going back and forth between car shops and the forum thread to try to get the issue fixed. Everyone on the forum was pitching in to try to help him. So I kept going through this long forum thread to try to figure out if he ever fixed it. And suddenly there's no more replies from the guy. Everyone was scratching their heads for a while. We thought he had maybe gotten the issue fixed and didn't bother to update us on it. Then one day, a news article popped up about a really rich guy who died in a Thai jail cell. And then we connected the two stories and they matched up. The same make and model of the car in the news article matched up with his car. And they were both claiming to be in Thailand at the time. So what happened was that same guy who was still talking on the forums got raided by the Thai police around the same time he stopped replying to the forum. Turns out that he was running one of the biggest dark web marketplaces where drugs were being sold and exchanged. It had something like $1 million in revenue per day, and he was hiding out in Thailand while living in luxury. They found him dead in his jail cell a few days later. They claim he died of suicide. Be safe, boys and girls. Don't give out your information or communicate with others. And if you plan on purchasing anything, use a secure Linux OS like Tails. Use private keys. Connect to a public Wi-Fi spot, not your house. Encrypt all messages. Use multi-signature markets, so your chances of losing your Bitcoin lessens. Escrow preferably. Never send your Bitcoins from a wallet attached to you directly to the seller. Tumble your coins first. And when the package arrives, don't open it for a few days. A friend of mine gave me all this info and told me I should help you guys out. I actually learned how to access the dark web by listening to NPR. They had a segment where an author who was writing a book about it basically gave step-by-step instructions on how to do it. I did everything he said, and, by golly, it worked. Truthfully, it was pretty underwhelming. Mostly just drugs and counterfeit items, passports, money, etc. I did find some weapons with the serial numbers scratched off, pistols and shotguns, but nothing that would start World War III. I also saw a couple ads for Hitman, but they seemed pretty hokey and were most likely undercover cops. I never felt in danger, but I have never gone back because there's nothing I really want from there. No government agents have kicked down my door either. Religious Silk Road and CGMC user here. I used to get the stuff delivered to my dorm, but the package didn't come directly to my room. I had to go pick it up from my dorm building office. For my third or fourth order from Silk Road, I got an email saying that a package had arrived for me, but when I went to pick it up I was told by a RA that my package was in the door's office. I got freaked out. I also for some reason was getting a lot of spam calls which added to my anxiety. I was scared shitless. I didn't go to pick it up for like 4 days and kept getting emails from the door to come to pick it up. I didn't go because I thought that it was a setup. But after a couple of days, I said fuck it because I had paid a lot of BTC for that order and wanted to consume and sell what I had ordered, so I went to pick it up. I was freaking out for literally nothing. The people holding on to my order couldn't have been nicer. They couldn't give me a reason why that package was delivered there and not to my dorm. So I just kept ordering more lol. Edit. The package was always delivered by USPS Priority, which is run by the federal government, and I went to a state university. So technically the federal government transported illegal goods to the state government for meal mayo. I've used the dark web once or twice. Scariest thing was when my screen went black for a few moments and turned back on. Wasn't anything big, just my display cable fucking up, but it did give me the creeps. As for dark or disturbing shit, I've only found a list of random addresses. The dark web really has a lot of stigma associated with it. For the most part it's just people curious about the dark web or people trying to scam you or sell you drugs. You have to do a lot of looking to find the really fucked up stuff. You're more likely to find dark web type crap on Reddit or YouTube than the actual dark web. Not dark web, but mid-90s web. I was 12, and obviously puberty was in control. This was chat room days. Kid I was acquainted with, an Eagle Scout nonetheless, had all these floppy, and I mean floppy disks full of pornographic images from some asshole supposedly in Texas. Me and a few other friends were over puberty, so we're eager to see naked women. It soon took a quick turn with girls that were likely my age. I immediately noped the fuck out and never really talked to the kid again. But knowing the Boy Scouts I wasn't getting involved, but I was like 13 and didn't even wanna tell my mom I was interested in women. I regret that day a lot. I should have called the police. Sadly I just compartmentalized it. 1996 was weird. Not dark web, but I used to work for a disabled guy. He'd been pretty badly disabled for 20 years and spent most of his time gaming and watching films. He was there early on when torrenting/file sharing started. He even said that he topped some lists of most prolific downloaders worldwide in the early days. Could be bragging, I don't know. He told me he'd only ever had any issues once. He downloaded a film for his kids, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. He was in the habit of checking every film before he let his kids watch, but didn't this time. Just hit play. He looked up at the screen after a minute or so to see a Snow White themed child porn video playing. 1 woman, 7 kids, etc. He didn't go into details or say how much his kids saw. Just that he freaked out, exited the file, and then went to the bathroom to throw up. I never felt in danger using the darknet, but I did almost lose everything to it. I started in the Alpha Bay days, then Dream, and eventually Empire, which to my knowledge, is still operating to this day. I ordered everything and anything, mainly out of curiosity. I wouldn't say I had a problem with anything in particular until the day I ordered crystal meth. Fast forward a few years later, and I was slamming it and using daily. I almost chose meth over my wife and 2 beautiful boys. And no one was the wiser, besides eventually my wife. No one at work knew. For the most part one was pretty good at hiding my use, although I feel like I would have been caught eventually. 69 days sober today. I still struggle, but life is better. I occasionally check my spam mails folder, so I found an email with one of my passwords as subject. It totally got my attention. On reading it, it said he was able to got into my laptop by installing a malware last time I visited a porn site, and has few videos of me that he captured from last 15 days, including a masturbating video, which he will forward to everyone on my contacts if I don't pay him some $2,000 of bitcoins. I was sweating for 10 minutes before I decided to check. I have a bad memory, so I save all my passwords in the browser. On checking, it was the previous password which was mentioned in the subject mail. On checking hip.com, I realized Yahoo server was exploited some 2 months back, and this guy might have got the password from there. Anyways, there is no point in negotiating with a blackmailer. He will just send another email with more money next time, so I'll let it go. I never received another email like that again. I don't go to dark web, but there was an instance in my country, Philippines, regarding an Australian expat named Peter Scully. He ran a pay-per-view video stream of child torture and rape with his girlfriends, a lot of which were child prostitutes themselves at one point. The Philippines has an insidious, almost invisible problem with child prostitution due to the rampant poverty, but this case shook so much people for how deplorable his methods were. Daisy's Destruction was a video he made that sold for $10,000. It features the torture and rape of 3 little girls, including Daisy, who was 18 months old. He is serving lifetime in a Philippine prison. I hope the inmates beat him up every day. I once got hit with a really poorly made computer virus. It was based on TeamViewer by the looks of it. I got the virus from a download link, but I can't remember what I was trying to download. Probably some kind of audio editing program if memory serves. As soon as a download was done, the virus activated, and it looked like something from an old version of TeamViewer. The mouse started moving on its own, so my immediate reaction was to disconnect my internet cable. I then shut the virus down from Task Manager and converted the file to a text file. Despite having no experience with programming at the time, even I could tell that it was made by a complete beginner. Most of the thing was blocks of code copy pasted into it randomly and connected by a few lines of code and copious use of goto. Was an absolute mess. It did get me interested in programming though, so I think the experience was a net positive. So, I'm 56 years old and have never stumbled into the dark web, thank God. I just spent more time than I should have reading about the ghastly videos that apparently thousands of you have seen, mostly by accident, and mostly when you were young children. Every single one of you noted how damaging the images and sounds were to you, and for many of you, that damage lingered. I'm especially saddened to read about those of you who were sweet innocents, just trying to have fun, who were ambushed by this unimaginable horror. Who knows how it changed you? I'm very grateful that the internet didn't exist when I was a child. Not that the videos described are any easier to process as an adult, but still. And I'm sitting here wondering how much of the anxiety disorders, depression, and lack of resilience and compassion that I see in our society is linked to what I'm reading here. It's really frightening to ponder, especially as this Reddit question, with over 7,000 comments, is only the tiniest tip of the iceberg. Those of you with young children, as a former college prof and a parent myself, here's my unsolicited advice. Know your children closely, watch their emotional development and behavior. Create open, non-judgmental, safe relationships where they feel secure in the knowledge they can come talk to you about anything. Because in our world today, there's no real way to prevent them from seeing horrible images and video before they're able to process it. Be safe out there. I heard about all the dark web stuff when I was about 12 over 13, so I decided to look around, thinking it wouldn't be that bad. There were a few odd moments, chat boxes popping up, but can't remember what they said to me. Found plenty of sites selling stolen tech for cheap, counterfeit money, Silk Road alternatives, etc. I can't remember what the site was called, but I think it may have mentioned something about dead bodies. I've always had a strong sense of morbid curiosity, especially when I was young. So I clicked. At first, nothing was worse than things you might see on r/5050. But then there were odd things like photos that weren't already publicly available. It was mentioned in the title, description, or comments, but I can't remember which. Obviously quite unsettling that these may have been genuine murderers/serial killers. Anyway, I suddenly scrolled onto what I still refer to as the worst thing I have ever seen. It was a completely skinned human, but they still had their eyes and teeth. They were skinned down to their muscles and tied up. Immediately closed my browser. I was 13, and up until then had never felt such a sudden sense of sadness, panic, and fear. It's been 7 years and I can still vividly see the image in my head, although I try not think about it. I've been on the dark web and honestly it's really hard to come across illegal or scary stuff unless you're actively looking for it. However, I would argue you're more likely to come across illegal or sick content on the surface web on accident. Just look at all those gore posts on social media. But once I was on like page 20 of Goggle looking for a specific abandonware program, forgot what it was, and got a pop-up for CP, don't wanna describe it. I feel compared to others I'm pretty tolerable of certain things, but that just made me throw up and even made me cry. I was so scared. Who knows who runs that site and what malware it has, but also the fact my ISP may have seen it and I could get agents busting down my door any second. Thank God that never happened, and I'm glad the content didn't traumatize me. Only regret not reporting the site. I was in such shock I just unplugged my computer in a rush. Basically, don't go on page 20 of Goggle. Like and subscribe for more edit videos.